Hello everyone, this is Bob and Threadbare, and welcome back to BioShock Infinite. Where we last left off, we listened to a man sing about how Atlas wants people to eat pie. Now that we've reloaded the game, you might notice that he is entirely missing. But that's okay, we listened to his song last time, and we didn't miss much anyway.
It's him. It's the Big Daddy. The one that killed me.
You can't trade blows with him.
Comstock put him down and he got right back up. I can't hurt him. I could keep my distance, but if I watched myself, he could come in handy. Enemy of my enemy.
I suppose this means that the Big Daddy can be used against some of the splicers in here.
Come back when you get some money, buddy.
Alright, so there's actually a bunch of shops you can reach from here, which is kind of odd considering this is a department store and not a shopping mall, but apparently we are in the part of the department store which has been rented out to smaller businesses. So we are technically in a shopping mall.
You're against a guy making an honest buck. I thought Rapture was open for business.
Now, this here is actually the silver fin where we need to go. As soon as I grab all of these flashing items here. Let's try and, I don't know, get inside. Man, that thing is loud.
The Silver Fin. This used to be a restaurant when I first came through. Now it belongs to this Suchong. Looks like I'm not the first one who tried to get in here. Well, at least he left a trail.
One of them did, the other one's just still there. But yeah, what the hell is up with this timeline? It keeps getting crazier. The more I look into it, the less it makes sense.
Somebody must have shot him when he tried to break into Suchong's. Huh. What's this? Well, seems like central heating came from this room, so it would stand to reason that the ductwork should go to Suchong's. Wait a minute.
There's something glowing and it's in the way. Suspicious.
Suchong wasn't exactly a master of subterfuge.
Well, either that thing was made out of aluminum or it was on some rollers, because that moved real easy. But yeah, we got turrets again. Gotta move real quick, sneak around them. And some of these things actually come with locks on the back that let you disable them. Not that one though, I guess. Uh-oh. This one's got a longer corridor to go through. Now I could just use possession to take these things over long enough for me to get past them. But this takes up less Eve.
Think we found our man.
No sign of him now.
Either he's dead, or working for Ryan.
What's your secret?
According to his biography there, it seems like he was a,
Locked. And nothing to pick. But I come here for a reason, right? Isn't that why you told me to find Suchong?
Well, technically, you told yourself.
Thanks, I appreciate the reminder.
Of what?
My tenuous mental state.
People ain't designed to see what you've seen. And now that you're just plain old flesh and blood, be grateful you've got things this well held together.
There must be something here I need to find. Something Suchong was working on.
A war profiteer. Suchong was a war profiteer during World War II. That was his biography. It used much nicer words, of course, but that's basically what it boils down to.
Test device. Suchong was opening tears?
Also, he's Korean.
Look, the tear still leads back to Columbia. Plasmids, vigors. He and Fink must have been in communication, sharing secrets. Like the Lutesses before they were physically together. Why did I need to come here? What does this have to do with Sally?
You remember, don't you?
It hasn't happened yet? I told you I can't do that anymore.
Concentrate, Elizabeth.
No, the doors are shut. They're... Lutece particle. I use the Lutece particle. If it can make a city float.
It can make a prison rise.
I can't open tears, but we could use this device to go to Columbia and find a particle. But it's been vandalized.
You'll fix it.
Sure. You know, my tower didn't come stocked with the Lutece device repair manual.
You will fix it.
Yeah, I'll just...
Elizabeth, you will fix it.
Okay. Okay, there must be some information around here.
But yeah, between the Chinese on one side and the Japanese on the other, Korea was in a pretty good position to suffer from war, but Koreans were in a pretty good position to profit from war if they had, like, little to no scruples. Which tells you just a little something about Suchong.
And before I knew it, Ryan had me bounced out of my own restaurant. And that Korean had the run of the place. It was a good business, I tell you. I never should have told anyone about that light. About those weird buildings I saw floating in the clouds. And most of all, I never should have told no one about that girl who showed up one day in that old-timey blue dress.
Nuts. Just trying to get a noisemaker. Oh. What are you? Guess I can't find out until I have Old Man Winter. But yeah, that's how upgrades work in this particular DLC. Is you find those things. There's 2 of them for each plasmid. And then you get your upgrades. It's fairly simple, actually.
Problem. Big Daddy will not imprint on the little brats. Yet Fink succeeded in imprinting his disgusting bird on his subject. How has Fink, the stupid man, succeeded where Suchong failed? If Suchong could obtain hair sample of Fink's subject, Suchong could determine delta of genetic material with little sister. Proof is in DNA pudding.
These are elements. Sodium, titanium. Why would these be on schematics for... It's code. A Visionaire cipher. If we assume hydrogen is A, and iron, the 26th element, is C...
You always used to need a code key.
It's right here. Never underestimate the fallibility of the egomaniac. Looks like a punch list for things Suchong needs to fix the machine. A cold cathode tube, a carbon dioxide scrubber, and a heatsink. Any of the vending machines should have the cathode tube. And we can look for a CO2 scrubber in the bathysphere showroom. A lot of models should have them. A heat sink. Oh, that's Where in a department store are we gonna find...
Keep your cool with Old Man Winter.
That'll work. Time to find those parts. And then I just have to repair the most sophisticated piece of technology ever created.
Elizabeth, you saw yourself make this repair. You can do this.
Whatever you say. Guess we better find our way out of here. Atlas, you there? I need a favor.
A favor? I don't suppose you've conjured up the miracle you promised yet?
I'm working on it. I'm gonna need some Old Man Winter.
You might try where they hawk them new bathyspheres. As I hear it, Old Man Winter's the only thing keeps their batteries from bursting into flames after 5 minutes.
Thanks.
Think nothing of it. But it's the last favor you'll be getting.
So now we have our goal for this section of the DLC. Basically the first half or so. Can't go back up there for some reason.
Penalty for vandalism of Suchong device is death. Even for pretty lady.
I suppose you'd be Suchong. Save your ammunition, your device doesn't work.
Device at work. Vandal sabotage. You are vandal.
Actually, I intend to fix your device. That is, unless you plan on coming down here and doing it yourself.
It's not prudent for Suchong to return to lab. And you say you can fix?
I broke your code, didn't I? Now just give me the one to open that door and we'll see what your creation can do.
1216.
Your birthday?
Enough of talk. Fix machine.
How'd you know that?
Never underestimate the fallibility of the egomaniac.
You do still need to know his birthday.
That's correct, sir. I'm representing Olympus Heights. Hope I do you all proud, gang.
So yeah, basically what we've got here is just sort of a hub.
Dear to my heart.
And out of this hub there are 4 areas, 3 of which have the items we need. The 4th is currently a bonus area, but will be coming up later.
Like your fag. Somebody there?
Oh,
Sure would love some.
walked into the water, but I have to get into this vent, so screw it.
Got a sweet idea for you.
It's not like anybody can follow me in here. Doesn't look like there's anybody in here either. They're all outside. Aha, see? This one I've got. And
That's it. We're done here.
yeah, notably, it does not just wear off and they'll just go back to normal. And it does not make them kill themselves.
Looks like someone's been decrypting a code. We've confirmed completion of the ace in the hole. Suchong has it, but unlikely to give it up easily. We'll update when we know more. What's that all about?
I'm pretty sure she'd be familiar with Morse code.
Gotta get my act.
It's not really something that needs decryption, it's just, I mean, it is standardized.
I get some work. I'll get back to real.
So I guess the story behind this place is that, Atlas set up some medical supplies for the people down here, who is secretly Frank Fontaine, the reason that they are down here in the first place. But he's, once again using altruism as an attempt to get people onto his side and working for him. Yeah, sort of a free clinic setup here.
Obscene. There are no excuses in Rapture.
But apparently not everybody is as appreciative as Atlas might want them to be. Alright, that person's walking away. Nobody else nearby. Let's see where else we can get to from here.
He says it's important to be yourself. So here I am, 100% the genuine article.
Alright, test drive. That's one of the places we need to go. But we couldn't have gotten in there before we knew why we would need to go in there, I mean. But there is one other place here, which we can, which we can visit.
Where'd you go last night? Out.
Without it being a destination unto itself.
Think I'm some kind of idiot?
And just a quick tap on the head. And we're free to explore. Now, much like how the other place was basically free medical supplies, this is a free food dispensary. But much like the medical supplies, the splicers have ruined everything.
Another coded message. Attempt to retrieve Ace in the Hole from Suchong unsuccessful. Ryan Private Security killed 3 of our men in the bargain. We'll need to explore alternate means of obtaining Ace. Hypnotize Big Daddy.
Coming next year.
Of course.
Oh man, 5 lockpicks. I've got 4. Well, luckily I heard that.
Here's a bell.
Where's this guy? Oh, above me. Shouldn't be too much trouble, I think. Anyway, we did pass a... Uh-oh. Luckily they can't see through that.
Like some. Know what around? Together! Spine on me again.
Yeah, vending machine.
There, that machine. It'll have the cathode tube.
Okay, so maybe there's only 3 areas from here.
Got it. Now we need to find Old Man Winters.
Welcome to the circus of value.
Luckily, it still works.
Too scrubby.
Refund, no return.
Still be around.
Thanks to the circus of value.
Right, anyway. Got our 5th lockpick now. So we can go back in there and check.
I got a lot of irons in the fire.
Uh-oh. Big Daddy's coming back this way. This dude's still exploring in the near area. But luckily, I can turn invisible, so screw them. Alright, let's get this open.
Where'd you go?
Ah, damn it. Oh, what the hell? Is that thing seriously just turned on a turret? Well, at least you get to see how the bed packs work. You press G and you get health. Instantly.
Hurry up and come out. I got a lot of irons in the fire.
Yeah.
I'm sure disruption behind us. Back to class.
Alright, so... yeah, there's the turret. There's a guy
I hope you like me.
examining the other end of this particular ductwork. I gotta be careful about getting back down there, because, you know, that's kind of where everybody's concentrated still. But so long as I don't run into the Big Daddy, I should be able to get there. without too much trouble. Or I could just, ignore it for now.
Old Man Winter. That's how we'll cool Suchong's machine.
I guess I go back for it later then. Oh well. It's for Old Man Winter anyway.
Well, he's gotta be handsome and smart and self-assured like Andrew Ryan.
Turn down the heat and turn up peace and relaxation with Old Man Winter from Ryan Industries.
Alright, looks like there's one thing over here worth grabbing. I can see what flashed in the darkness. Oh, okay.
This fella Atlas has been making the rounds down here, trying to bring some kind of order to this pit. All the splicers think the man walks on water, but something about him smells stink to me. Reminds me a bit of my former employer, Frank Fontaine. Always talking about how he was going to lift Rapture right out of the old man's wallet. No fuss, no muss. See where that got him.
Yeah?
Atlas sent me here for some Old Man Winter.
You haven't been around here long, have you?
What makes you say that?
'Cause you're the only one of us that don't smell like the reptile house at the zoo. Now be quick about it, and just take the winner. This ain't the Goodwill.
So this is specifically why we couldn't get in here before. I think we could explore the other two areas, like, at will. It's just that we would have to have gone back for the stuff we need. Hello there.
The time has come, brothers and sisters. Did you want to keep climbing Andrew Ryan's ladder? Just to watch him knock it down as you're reaching the top? The cards are stacked. What's a bunch of fine words if there ain't deeds to back them up? Rapture was supposed to be different. But the only thing that separates it from the slums of New York or Glasgow or about 1 million gallons of salt water. Ryan sent a clear message when he had Frank Fontaine put down. It's time all you learned your place. I tell you what, Ryan. Message received. Loud and clear. And here's what the people of Rapture have to say to you. If you won't give us what we want, we're more than happy to come and take it.
Man, the guy on the bass guitar was really jamming there.
So Atlas asked me to figure out where to strike first when we bust out of this place, but, it all depends on when we get out, November 5th, it's a big founding of Rapture shindig at Fort Frolic. Valentine's Day, Arcadia's real popular. It's near New Year's Eve, then, hey, we could pop the corks off all the stuffed shirts down at the Kashmir restaurant.
Well, it is just after New Year's Eve. I'm not sure they would still be partying, though.
Whereabouts of the foreign bitch scientist unknown. Ryan presumes she's dead, but our guess is she's gone underground with the Little Sisters. Options on obtaining the ace are dwindling.
Well, 3 out of 4 already. Well, hello there, company man.
Tell Ryan things are getting hot down here real fast. The goddamn leprechaun is building himself a regular army. If you'd asked my opinion, which you didn't, I'd send a crew down here and clean up the place before they show up on your doorstep. But who am I except some undercover schmuck you sent to give you straight dope?
And who failed at it, apparently. Alright, yep.
Memo to the sales team. While we deny all customer claims regarding purported burns they have received from, quote, overheating of 1958 bathyspheres, unquote, our marketing team has decided to give away flasks of Old Man Winter as part of a new promotional campaign. There will be no recall of the 58. No recall.
Freeze your enemies. Shatter them into 1,000 pieces.
Alright, so why are we getting that one again?
Just what we needed. All we need now is a CO2 scrubber.
Who the hell are you?
Sounds like it's a good time to sneak away. I'm not even sure we find a radar range in this game. If we do, I'm apparently unable to locate it. Whoops. But yeah, unfortunately it turns out that the vent only leads back this way. Which I guess is, you know, easier to hide from the splicers in the back like this, but I still will have to get past them. Well, I suppose if I froze the water they're standing in, that might do something to them. Well, it's easy enough just to, you know, you know, just to walk past them while their backs are turned.
Look at what you done. Fair warning. I'm an eye for an eye type of fella.
Yeah, well that's nice, but I don't care. And I don't have to care. Alright, well that was easy. So now there's only 2 places left to explore, but on the other hand, they are both much larger than the places we have explored up to this point.
There are no excuses in Rapture.
And then on the other hand, I've got 2 separate upgrades which need picking up, don't I?
What of it? I've been told this town was friendly to free enterprise.
Let's just run in here and get this one first. It's a lot easier since there isn't anybody wandering around. Just up into the back, into the kitchen storage area here. Yep, now Old Man Winter is a area attack.
Mother always says it's important to be yourself. So here I am, 100% genuine artist.
Alright, now I just need to sneak over to that other place. It's on the ground floor, just right over there. Trouble is, all of these people in the way. And you know, I could knock them out, but they do respawn. And she's not moving at all.
Child.
So I decided to take her out the easy way. Well, there's the Big Daddy coming the wrong way.
You can't judge a man only by bookings. Characters gotta come into account.
You know, it's kind of funny, but That's actually another thing from Atlas Shrugged, is that the looters, as you called them, were always making up excuses, much like the splicers here. Alright, jump in here, get the Winter Forget mod, jump back before it spots me, or at least before it can successfully shoot me. Knock out this guy because he didn't quite notice me.
Seen what you done to my friend here?
Deal with him.
Do to my
What's that, cookie face?
Hey, great. Now the Big Daddy's excited. So I'm just gonna get my ass out of there.
I ain't no moron.
And leave all of that nonsense behind me.
Come back and clean it all up.
Don't have much Eve to spare at this point.
Just another look-see. Gosh, there's an awful lot of competition, and they're all so pretty. That's it, why a girl can dream, can't she? I'm getting out of here.
Uh-oh. Crap. Just had to be headed this way. Big old son of a bitch.
What are you doing over there?
Fine. It's gonna have to walk through the water anyway. Well, luckily, we've reached our next destination. The service bay.
Where there's bathyspheres, there's bound to be CO2 scrubbers.
And why is that?
If you don't remove the carbon dioxide from the air supply in a submersible, you'll suffocate. And one thing I did like about Rapture, lots of new books to read. That will need a long-haul bathysphere, something where the CO2 buildup would limit the submersible period.
How long was she hanging out in Rapture? That she didn't know about Little Sisters, but she did read a whole bunch of books and visit this department store before it sank down to become the prison that it is today. At least that poor asshole got stabbed in the chest. Better than getting stabbed in the back.
I've seen all this happen before. I've seen everything that will happen, and now I only see darkness.
You sent yourself here for a reason.
A debt.
That's what you want to call it.
This Atlas. I'm gonna have to kill him. Either that or he'll kill me.
Maybe so.
I'm not you, Booker. Some war hero. I'm not even me anymore. No tears, no omniscience, or whatever you want to call it. Just a whole lot of book learning. And a handful of lockpicks.
And a really nice crossbow. Don't forget that. Well, looks like we're back to cracking codes again. But what with us being Elizabeth this time, the codes are able to take center stage now. And since codes and code breaking have their own history, I'd say it's time we visit Science Corner and see how encryption techniques have evolved over the years. It all started with a word. Originally, there was no need for cryptography or ciphers, because originally only a very small number of people could read. At that point, words essentially were the cipher, one that was impossible to crack without the encryption key, which is the knowledge that, say, two lines that meet at an acute angle, which have a third line that bridges the two about halfway down, represents an ah sound. Or a straight line connected to half a circle represents a d sound. However, this period where you could hide a message by simply writing it down didn't last as long as most people seem to figure. In large part, this is because people wrote on organic surfaces with organic compounds, and so they've long since decayed away. And while literacy may not have been as universal as it is today, it was at least common enough that the work crews who built the Egyptian pyramids would write delivery instructions on the blocks, and the walls of Pompeii are positively covered in Latin graffiti. Part of the reason book publishing exploded in Europe once the printing press was invented is because the demand for written materials so far exceeded their supply. It's not too surprising then that the first encryption we're certain was meant as such came about in Greece. Someone who wanted to send a message would wind a long strip of cloth or something else that can hold ink around a stick or a dowel, and then write the message. When unwound, the message would be theoretically impossible to understand, and unless the person who intercepted it knew the trick and had a rod of the same diameter, the message would be safe. Of course, once such a trick is known, your enemy is going to stock up on a lot of sticks. Later on, the Romans would use a cipher attributed to Caesar himself. It wasn't that complicated, and these days kids solve harder ciphers for fun. It's the letter shift cipher, where you shift the letter you want to use a couple of places, so that A equals D, B equals E, C equals F, and so on. Of course, it wasn't that secure, since there are only so many shifts you can make before you wrap back around to the beginning of the alphabet, and even if you completely randomize the letter substitution, someone can still solve it by counting how often a letter comes up, slotting in the most commonly used letters for that language, and working the rest out by placement and most likely common words. Notably, Arab philosophers figured out this solution method sometime around the year 1000. And it should be noted that solving these ciphers was harder back in the day, since advanced punctuation and spaces between words didn't exist yet. But even so, it is literally child's play by today's standards. Plus, I should note that at some point after when spaces were introduced, it became standard practice to write coded messages in groups of 5 letters to avoid that giveaway. In the 15th century, a man named Leon Battista Alberti of Genoa created the polyalphabetic cipher, specifically a technique that's named after him. Basically, he made the first cipher disk, where the outside is the regular alphabet and the inside is the alphabet in a completely random order. Using this disk, Alberti would start with the usual Caesar shift cipher for a specific sequence of letters, but then he'd change the shift line and use that for the next sequence, and not always for the same number of letters each time. This made the Arabic frequency analysis much less useful, and to make it even harder, Alberti's version also put numbers on the outside of his encoding disk, used the numbers to refer to a prearranged list of common phrases, and then encoded the numbers, making it that much harder to spot patterns. So unless you knew the shift lengths and frequencies, and could figure out which phrases corresponded to which numbers, you'd have a hell of a time decoding the Alberti method. However, the ultimate pre-computer cipher was the one-time pad, first proposed by the American Frank Miller in 1882. With a one-time pad, you start with a long stream of letters, generated completely at random for each page. These letters are then combined with the actual message and sent to the one other person in the world who has a copy of the one-time pad's encryption key. Used properly, a one-time cipher message is impossible to break without the key. But the problem is with the logistics. You need to generate a completely random key, make sure both the sender and the receiver have a copy, and you need to make sure the pads don't fall into the wrong hands. At the same time, people were also secretly passing information through alternate means of communication. During the Age of Sail, naval vessels would use a series of flags to signal each other while out of hailing distance, and different combinations of flags would represent different letters, words, and vessel designations. For direct communication, the thieves' cant was a language essentially made up by communities of thieves and other folk who made their living illegally, and the original versions were apparently heavily based on the Romany language, the people which, in English, are often called gypsies. Other obscure and rarely used languages have been used to pass secret information during wars, particularly the Native American languages of the United States. During World War II, the U.S. Marine Corps brought on Navajos from Arizona and New Mexico to use their language as a kind of code. Navajo was perfect for this, because there were still plenty of native speakers left, it's a hard language to learn, the syntax is almost completely unique even within its language family, and as a result of these last 2 points, almost nobody outside of the Navajo communities knew anything about the language. As you might assume, the code language which the Navajo radio operators developed proved entirely unbreakable. Going digital. Starting in the 1930s, Germany began using a mechanical computer as its encryption method of choice. As the threat of war loomed, the Polish intelligence service hit upon the incredible idea that mathematicians could be effective code breakers, and so they hired several of them to help crack various ciphers, including the German Enigma machine. Thanks to a French mole in Germany, the Polish service got access to several operation manuals, a few encoded messages, and 3 months' worth of daily keys. With this material, plenty of mathematics knowledge, and the realization that German Enigma operators were using the same indicator word for all the messages they sent in a single day, which otherwise might have added an extra level of encryption, the Polish mathematician Marian Rejewski figured out the machine's basic wiring characteristics in 1933, and as war loomed in 1939, Polish intelligence shared its knowledge with the British and French. Once World War II began, Alan Turing went to Bletchley Park and started work on Enigma decryption, an evolving process thanks to how the Germans kept updating and strengthening their ciphering techniques. Right away, he developed the bomb, named after the similar Polish bomba, an electromechanical computer which could run through every possible Enigma rotor permutation and even discard those permutations that were impossible, so that operators would only have to review a relatively small number of possibilities. By the end of the war, 200 bombas were in constant use. After World War II, as computers gradually grew more electronic than mechanical with the help of Turing and many others, encryptions turned to computers and algorithms as ways to scramble messages without the problem of human error. Not that human error has exactly disappeared, mind you. If your password of choice is password 123456789 or any shortening thereof, or if it's football, baseball, or QWERTY, then you should definitely change your password. Also, if it's Star Wars, people have already figured that out too. But as far as algorithmic encryption goes, it operates on the same essential patterns as the older, simpler systems. Using a key pattern, a certain number of bits long, the message is scrambled in a not quite random way, and someone who intercepts this message essentially needs a computer a couple orders more powerful than the encryption in order to run through every possible permutation. In the 1970s, several different organizations and individuals, including both national intelligence agencies and 3 students at MIT, developed the first public key algorithm. What makes the system unique is the fact that it uses 2 different keys, one public and one private, and each key can only decrypt information encrypted by the other key. Thus, so long as the private key remains private, the system is indefinitely secure no matter how many people use it for two-way communication. There haven't been any real revolutions in encryption since then, but encryption algorithms have grown more complex alongside computers. Still, there is one thing I figured I should note because it's rather interesting. The people who focus on increasing security tend to be rather open and honest about their efforts, while the people who focus on breaking security tend to keep as much as they can under wraps. Personal thoughts. Information does not want to be free. Technically speaking, information doesn't want anything at all, so it's all up to the people who hold it. And think about the information in your head for a moment, the stream that is your consciousness. How many times per day does a random thought cross your mind? How many odd forks and tangents does your thought process go on within a 24-hour period? How many thoughts do you have every hour that you would never repeat to a soul because you know they aren't the right thoughts, because they're based on emotional judgments that you know are unfair even as you think them? Everyone curates what he or she says because our brains are designed to provide more thoughts than we need so that our frontal lobes can choose which ones to support and which ones to discard. And as bad as we can often be at picking the right thoughts, making the right decisions, and avoiding saying those things we might regret later, how much more would we regret this kind of information leak if someone could access all our thoughts, all the information stored in our brains? Now take that thought and expand it. Our behavior around our friends is very often different than our behavior around our parents, our spouses, our coworkers, our employers, and anyone we might happen to meet on the street. We can afford to tell one person certain things that we can't afford to tell others, because one person can take a joke and another person can't. Because we can afford to let one person know our weaknesses, but another person would exploit them. Because sometimes we doubt whether we're as tolerant or as hard on others as we ought to be, and some people will take such a statement completely the wrong way. And even if you meant it, most people would rather have a civil relationship instead of constant arguments and ill will. So we lie, and we conceal. And if we say two contradictory things to two different audiences, does that make us hypocrites? I'd say so, yes. But we are honest hypocrites, because in each of those moments, we have several options to choose from, and even if we pick differently in each case, we can honestly say that we made the most correct possible decision with the information available. Let's take that big embassy leak that wound up on WikiLeaks as an example. What did we really learn from that? We learned that diplomats are less diplomatic and more frank and unflattering when they think they have an audience of one or two, and that they don't always agree with the official government's stance when they aren't speaking as the government. We learned something I mentioned way back during Deus Ex, that sometimes negotiations have to be private if they're going to succeed. After all, while politicians have to grandstand for public opinion to get elected, the government doesn't run on grandstanding and populist slogans. It runs because those with power have to negotiate with others who have power in order to keep everyone, well, not happy, but satisfied at least. And while the media likes to turn every political and moral compromise into a giant scandal, the fact is that compromises are necessary in a democracy. Strict moral standards can only exist in a government operated by just one person or group, and what that can lead to doesn't bear mentioning. So information does not want to be free. Instead, for the sake of civilized discourse and tolerance, we must all pretend to have only one thought in our heads at any one time despite all the dozens that constantly flit about. It's dishonest, to be sure, and we should strive to at least remain as factual as possible, but human kindness is too vital, and friendships too important to let a little thing like honesty stand in their way. Thanks for joining me again in Science Corner, and I hope I'll see you soon.